Do you know how to find off-market deals in this crazy market? Well, I'm here to give you some strategies on how to do just that. Hi, everyone. I am Becky Nova, the founder of Lady Landlords, and thank you very much for joining me for this episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. So today we're going to be going through a couple different ways that you'll be able to find off-market properties. This I know is a topic that's really, really popular in the Lady Landlords Facebook group, purely because of all the issues with just how competitive the market is right now and how busy things have gone, and especially as we've gone through COVID over this past year. So before, it used to be much easier to find deals on the MLS, but maybe right now that's not necessarily working for you in the market that you're in. I'm located here in New York, right outside of New York City, and it is definitely an entire different world within the real estate community right now. So I want to share some things that I've been doing to find off-market deals over this past year that might just be able to work for you. So first option that I'm going to give you today is really thinking about that kind of old saying that real estate investing is all about networking and relationship building. It really is true. And there are so many different opportunities of what you can do to be able to find properties through building some of those relationships. What I mean by that, and some of the people that you want to look for, are, to start off with, still realtors. Yes, you can find properties on an MLS. You can go the traditional route. But when talking about off-market properties, realtors are still going to be great connections for you to be able to bring those properties to you. I actually myself bought an off-market property in 2019 that was an off-market deal, and that was actually brought to me simply by my realtor. He went on a listing appointment, was able to look at the property with these sellers, walk through it, heard what they were looking for, knew the numbers that they had wanted. And without even having to put it in the market, he knew that that was a Becky property. He knew that that was exactly the type of properties that I look for, what I want, what I'm going for. So that was something that he was able to say, hey, instead of putting this on the market, I actually think I might know somebody that would be interested in buying it. And we were able just to go that direction, that route. It was better for me not to be in that competitive situation. It was better for the sellers because it was a quadplex, and they were really worried about trying to schedule the showings with all the different tenants and having people walking through their property and trying to just schedule how that was going to work out. So they really just wanted something that would be a little bit easier. So going the off-market route really just kind of worked for all of us. But it was because I had that relationship with my realtor. And one of the things you might have heard me mention in there was also that my realtor knew it was a quote unquote Becky property. The reason for that is because I try to be very clear with everyone, not just my realtor, with what the type of criteria is for a property that I'm looking for. So I don't just say like, hey, I want to buy a property somewhere in New York. What I do is I will say and be very clear with what my budget is. This is how much I'm looking to spend. This is the type of property I want. Personally, I tend to stick to that 2 to 4 multifamily type property. That's my sweet spot. That's what I like the most. So I will make sure that they know that. They know what price point I'm looking for. They know what cash flow I'm looking for. They know what type of work I'm willing to be able to do, and versus the work I'm not willing to be able to do. Over this past year, there's definitely been some times that I'm like, all right, great. I can definitely take on a full rehab. There's other times that I've been like, you know what? Nope, I'm sticking with cosmetic upgrades only. And there's also been a time last year, many of you know of the property that I bought in upstate New York during the pandemic. And that was a property that I wanted to be absolutely turnkey. So it's really important to make sure that you know what you're looking to buy. So that way you can tell other people what it is that you are looking for. So realtors, clearly, that's just an easy one. You want to make sure to network with them. You want to make sure that not only the realtor that you personally plan on working with knows what you're looking for, but also then talk to some other realtors. They might have something that's going to be coming on the market at a point in time that is going to be a good fit for you. The other people that you want to be meeting with and letting them know what you're looking for and have these relationships with, too, is other investors. I cannot tell you how many phone calls I've gotten from another investor saying, hey, Becky, I just looked at this property. It was great. It had this, it had this, it had this, but it wasn't the right fit for me. Not what I was looking for, but I remember you telling me your criteria. So I would love to put you in touch. And then all of a sudden that off-market deal that other person found now becomes my possible off-market deal. So working with other investors, remember that we are not in competition with each other. We can really benefit each other. We can work together and make sure that others are finding the right properties that they are looking for as well. Just as important as it is for them to be able to share some of those leads with us if they're not finding the right things as well. So don't hesitate reaching out and meeting with other investors to figure out if you can find some off-market properties that way. Other people to kind of network with would then be other service providers. You can still talk to property managers. You can talk to contractors. Anybody else that still is within this world of looking at houses, seeing those properties is always somebody else good to make sure that they know what you're looking for. There's also nothing wrong with letting your family and friends know what you're looking for, because maybe they have a friend's sister's aunt that's selling a property that fits the criteria that you're looking for. It's really important to let people know what you want, so then that way they can help you in finding them. Another way to go with building relationships is to work with wholesalers. Do check the state and location of where you're buying in with what the conditions and laws are around wholesalers in that particular location. But be clear with a wholesaler with what you want and have them be that extra set of eyes out there looking for those properties for you as well. So those are some ways that just by using those networking events and those communities that you'll be able to drum up some of the off-market business. One of the other ways when we're talking about networking that you can meet with some of the people that we're talking about is to attend the Lady Landlords meetups. We not only host a local meetup in New York, if you would like to come and meet us all in person, but we also have every single month a virtual meetup, which is a great opportunity to ask for a person in a certain location or a connection in a certain location and really kind of get to bond with those things. So if you've never attended a Lady Landlords virtual meetup, I encourage you to look in the group for when the next meetup's going to be and join us. Come out and meet some of the other ladies off the Facebook page and really kind of get to know some of the other women in the community. I'll also make sure to put that link down in the show notes for you, so you can always join and figure out when our next meetup will be then. So that's kind of that building relationships and talking about that side. That's a great way to be able to get your name out there, but it's still passive. You're still waiting for other people to come to you and find where a deal is. So let's now switch gears and talk a little bit more about what you can actively be doing for looking for off-market properties. Next thing that you could do here, I'm going to put it under that category, as some of you have probably heard this phrase before, which is called driving for dollars. Driving for dollars, in my opinion, you cannot get more active than that. That's where you are literally driving around, knocking on doors, looking up addresses, walking around neighborhoods and identifying properties, and then talking to that seller or that owner and seeing if they are interested in selling their property. So once again, much more from an active perspective, but this is something that people will do on a regular basis. I cannot tell you how many of the mentees that I've worked with have told me that they were driving around this neighborhood because they had an extra 20 minutes, or maybe they got lost on their way driving somewhere, saw some properties, got out, and were able to start some conversations with that person. So here's kind of how that driving for dollars would work. This is, once again, really that any active perspective where you go into a neighborhood. Like I said, maybe it's by accident because you got lost driving, but you really identify kind of the area you want to look in. You really go around that area, driving, walking, bicycling, whatever it may be, and then going up and really just knocking on that person's door or taking that address and then deciding that you're going to reach out to them later. If you have not listened to our podcast episode about cold calling, now is a great opportunity to go back and listen to that episode. It really walks you through what you should say to that person, what things should look like with that relationship, what really you should do when you identify a property that you want there. Do remember though, with cold calling, that could literally be knocking on multiple doors, texting people that you don't know, cold calling people, really just hoping that you're going to get a response there. And then when you do get a response, but you really want to make sure it doesn't happen, is you get that door slammed in your face, or you then just keep coming up with people that do not want to sell their property. So driving for dollars really is a numbers game. The more houses you identify, the more houses that you knock on their doors, the more owners that you speak to, the better chance you have of being able to purchase that property or to find the right one that's going to fit for you. So make sure when you do that, this one's a little bit more time intensive, but it is a very active way that if you're sitting there being like, oh, I'm looking on the MLS, I told all these people what I want, I'm not finding it. Driving for dollars might be the opportunity for you to go out and then say, I'm going to make something happen. So that's option 2 for you guys. The third option I'm going to give you guys, and kind of the one that I'm a little obsessed with right now, is being able to use software systems that takes that driving for dollars and actually moves it to a virtual platform for me. What that does for me is now I can look at a lot more properties in a much shorter period of time. And who doesn't like to save time, right? So now instead of having to go out, drive in properties, take down addresses, knock on doors, which honestly is not something I personally always feel very comfortable with, especially in some of the areas that I either live in or that I've been looking in. Those might just not be things that I want to go up and just knock on a stranger's door and hope that they even answer. They probably won't, but you never know who's going to be on the other side of that door. So this to me is a little bit safer, and I can actually kind of go through a lot more addresses in a faster point of time. And that's by using a software system called PropStream. So what I'm able to do here is what I call really your virtual driving for dollars. It gives me the availability to look through those different properties, identify owners, and even if I actually went out and physically drove around a neighborhood and found some addresses, I still need to figure out who to contact. Who owns that property? They might not necessarily even be living in the house. So I now need to figure out who that owner is. PropStream is something that I can just with a couple clicks of a button am able to identify who that owner is. And then now I can move forward with reaching out to them with those cold calling strategies that I mentioned previously. So as I mentioned before, driving for dollars is really just a way that you have to play that numbers game. The more houses that you knock on doors, the more maybe mailers you send, the more text messages or calls you make, the better chance of a response you're going to get. But with PropStream, I can actually exponentially increase the amount of houses I can look at, owners that I can speak to, or conversations that I can start to be able to find that off-market deal. So that to me, any way that I can always save time and money are things that I'm looking into. Then I still have to follow those same kind of strategies here. I then still have to reach out to that owner, have that conversation, but I've already done a lot of the legwork. I have my numbers. I was able to identify them. PropStream really helps me with absolutely everything with that. So it's kind of my one-stop shop to be able to figure out where those properties are. It has really changed the game for me in finding and identifying properties, especially in this market. So hopefully that will help you, ladies. They actually offer a free trial to be able to use PropStream to our Lady Landlords community. So if you're interested in checking it out and learning more, do take a look in the show notes about how you can get that free trial and go and check out PropStream for yourself and see if that's going to be the key for you to being able to find those off-market deals in this type of market. So hopefully that will help you. We also do have a upcoming workshop that you will be able to join for free to learn more about how to dive deeper into some of these strategies that I talked about and finding off-market properties. So I'm going to drop that link for you also in the show notes down there and also in the Lady Landlords Facebook group. So please do come join us and learn more about how to find these off-market deals. It's an amazing world when you can really take real estate investing from just this very passive, waiting for the perfect deal to fall on your lap, to being able to go out there, find the property that meets your needs, and start bringing in that cash flow today. So that's it for me today on the Lady Landlords podcast. Thank you very much for joining us, and I will see you all next week for our upcoming episode of the Lady Landlords podcast.